It began with a single credit card Marcus never applied for. A platinum Visa arrived in the mail with his name embossed in silver. He laughed, assuming it was junk, and tossed it into the trash. 2 days later, the same card was used to lease a black Mercedes in Las Vegas. Marcus discovered the fraud when his bank called about a missed payment on a $47,000 personal loan he'd supposedly taken out in Reno. He spent 6 hours on hold with fraud departments, faxing driver's licenses and utility bills. The bank representative sounded sympathetic until she read the final note. Subject claims identity theft, but signature matches perfectly. Damian Crowther was meticulous. He had Marcus's social security number memorized the way musicians memorize chords. He knew Marcus's mother's maiden name, Whitaker, his first dog, Rusty, and the exact date Marcus opened his first savings account at age 9. He obtained these fragments over 18 months from data breaches, phishing quizzes, and a bribed DMV clerk in Ohio. By month 3, Damian had opened 8 credit cards, 3 auto loans, and a mortgage on a condo in Miami, all in Marcus Hale's name. He paid just enough on each account to keep them current, building Marcus an impeccable credit score of 812 while bleeding him dry in slow motion. The first time Marcus saw his credit report, he vomited in the parking lot of the public library. Total new debt, $312,000. Creditors were already calling his actual phone because Damian had been polite enough to leave Marcus's real number on every application. Lauren found the letters first, thick envelopes from collection agencies stamped final notice in red. She confronted Marcus in the kitchen at 2 a.m. while Sophie slept upstairs. "Are you gambling?" she whispered. Marcus couldn't speak. He simply handed her the credit report. She read it in silence, then walked out of the house without her coat in December. The police were useless. The detective assigned to the case shrugged and said, "Identity theft is a federal crime, and the perpetrator is probably in another country." Marcus pointed out that the thief had used a Nevada driver's license with his own face photoshopped onto Damian's body. The detective closed the file anyway. Damian began weaponizing the legal system. He filed taxes in Marcus's name and claimed a $9,800 refund, which the IRS happily sent to a prepaid debit card. When Marcus filed his real return, the IRS flagged it as duplicate and froze his legitimate refund. Penalties accrued daily. One morning Marcus tried to buy coffee and every card was declined. His own bank accounts he had held for 15 years, were frozen because a judgment had been entered against him in Florida for the Miami condo foreclosure. He stood at the ATM watching the screen flash insufficient funds while strangers stared. Damian escalated. He took out life insurance on Marcus Hale for $2 million, naming himself beneficiary, then started sending anonymous threats to Marcus's workplace claiming Marcus was embezzling funds. HR called Marcus in. His keycard stopped working the same afternoon. Sophie came home from school in tears because the principal had received an anonymous email, sent from an account that appeared to be marcus.hale@willowcreekschools.org, accusing Marcus of sending threatening and harassing messages to teachers and parents. The messages were vicious, racist, and violent. Marcus spent 4 hours at the police station proving he had never accessed the school network and that his actual work computer had been at home all day. They eventually believed him, but the school board didn't. Rumors spread like wildfire, and parents began pulling their kids away whenever Sophie walked by. Lauren filed for divorce, terrified that Damian might come after Sophie next. The judge awarded her temporary full custody because Marcus now had a history of financial irresponsibility and questionable online activity. Marcus moved into a motel that smelled of mildew and broken dreams. At night Marcus sat in the flickering neon light and researched his ghost. He discovered dozens of other victims posting on obscure forums. Same pattern, same forged signatures, same chilling precision. They called the thief the Mirror. No one had ever seen his real face. Damian made one mistake. He used Marcus's identity to rent a storage unit in Columbus, Ohio, under video surveillance. Marcus drove 12 hours straight, armed with nothing but desperation and a printed still from the grainy footage. The man in the video looked nothing like Marcus. He was thinner, younger, with cold gray eyes. Inside the storage unit Marcus found the machinery of his destruction. Boxes of blank birth certificates, a thermal printer for driver's licenses, stacks of prepaid phones, and a corkboard with photographs of 23 people, including Marcus, each pinned beneath the word acquired in red marker. Damien was waiting. He stepped from the shadows holding Marcus's own face on a perfect latex mask. "You weren't supposed to find me," he said, voice muffled but calm. "Most people just kill themselves when it gets this bad." Marcus ran. He ran until his lungs bled and the Ohio highway blurred into darkness. Behind him, sirens wailed. Damien had called the police and reported Marcus for breaking and entering using Marcus's own stolen ID. Warrants were already issuing. For 8 months Marcus lived like a fugitive in his own country, sleeping in his car, using library computers to warn others. Every week another piece of his former life vanished. His professional license revoked, his passport flagged, his name added to terror watch lists after Damien bought plane tickets to Syria. They caught Damien eventually, in a traffic stop with a trunk full of synthetic identities. He smirked for the cameras and never once gave his real name. Prosecutors offered him 15 years in exchange for the master list of victims. He refused. "Some secrets," he said, "were worth more than freedom." Marcus testified via video link because he was still wanted in 3 states for crimes Damien committed. The judge looked at him with pity and said, "Sir, legally, you are both the victim and the perpetrator." The courtroom was silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Years later, Marcus Hale is a name that belongs to no one. The real Marcus lives under an assumed identity in a town that doesn't exist on most maps. He works night shift at a warehouse and flinches whenever someone says his old name. Damien Crowther rots in federal prison, still smiling in every mugshot, still refusing to reveal how many lives he actually stole. Your identity is not who you are. It is only what the system says you are. Once someone else learns to speak fluently in your name, they can erase you more completely than murder ever could. Guard your fragments like blood, because in the dark, there are patient monsters who collect them one piece at a time, until the mirror finally shows their face wearing yours.